So single-player games are getting longer in general, and in some ways it's nice if you're trying to make sure you're getting value for your money, but on the other hand, don't you ever wish some games, well, valued your time more? Hi folks, it's Mac, and today, 10 single-player games that value your time. Starting off with number 10, it's Ghostrunner. Look, some of the most exciting, value-packed games are actually incredibly good at respecting your time. It might not be all that long a game, or if it's not all that in-depth or expensive looking, but if every second is a thrill ride, sometimes that's enough. Ghostrunner is a game that's almost respectable in how much it respects your time. This fast-paced, skill-based game of parkour and ninja action doesn't give you a moment to breathe. It's non-stop action all the time. Most importantly though, this game is frugal with its levels. Instead of dragging things out with overly long levels and halfway points, Ghostrunner is all about short, bite-sized areas. Every time you go to a new section, it's a new level. That makes it possible to brute force your way through the game as the levels themselves get really challenging. There's no easy part to slow you down. It's just all killer, no filler. Restarting is practically instant. The devs do everything to get you back into the action as quickly as possible, and it's essentially the entire game. Challenges for the player to overcome, rather than any grand adventure. And that doesn't make the game any less fun. Honestly, it's the opposite. The second game expands on the formula a little bit, at least in terms of levels, which are a little longer. That maybe drags things down a little compared to the first, if you're asking me. In a game like this, big, long levels aren't actually all that fun. Shorter maps and more variety is a great idea, even if it was maybe done to save time. It actually did for the player as well. At number 9 is Hi-Fi Rush. It's probably Tango Gameworks' last release, as they're sadly no longer with us, but it's also their best game. What makes it so good isn't just its fantastic rhythm, action-packed gameplay, and amazing presentation, it's how there's no moment wasted in the game. From the very start, this game is just oozing with personality, and for every second from there on. There are no long intro cinematic sequences, the introduction is quick and to the point, showing you who our main dude is, why he got a music player jammed into him, and why it made him into a rhythm action man, and then the game starts proper. This intro is just one sign of how lean and fast and exciting the game is. Every area has its own unique look and feel. There's fun side banter between Chai and his crew of misfits, they come fast, action is frequent, and everything is punctuated by exciting boss fights and by far some of the most gorgeously animated cutscenes I've seen in a game, maybe ever, in terms of cell shading, certainly. Oh, and it respects your time with good, well-written cutscenes that are actually important. They get to the point, they move the plot along, everything in the game is first class. Normally, games like this can start to get repetitive and feel like a drag long before the end, but Hi-Fi Rush is consistently throwing us new things and keeping everything fresh with one level after the other, and it's doing it all without ever dragging. Tango put all their best people on this one, and it shows. It's barely a minute longer than it needs to be. And in a world where every game is loaded with boring open-world checklist objectives, Hi-Fi Rush is a pleasant, no pun intended, well, pun intended maybe, a pleasant rush that doesn't waste your time. It just doesn't. At number 8 is Trek to Yomi, a game that stood out to people for its unique, highly stylized presentation. But what surprised me when I played through it is how it actually values my time. It's rare to find this kind of game that's so highly cinematic, like a straightforward story mode that's as short as this game. Most story-driven single-player games are at least like 8 to 10 hours. This game does not hit that mark. Trek to Yomi takes about 5 to 6 hours to finish, maybe taking up to 7 if you want to find every nook and cranny throughout its relatively short runtime. For most games, that would be a big strike against them, but they don't charge $60 for Trek to Yomi. It's that short, yes, but it's about the right length. At no point does it really feel like it's dragging. There's not a lot of filler, it's a reasonably simple story, the action's pretty simple as well. Simple's the name of the game here, but honestly, I think it actually works in Trek to Yomi's favor. The combat could be a little jank, and a lot of people couldn't get into the unusually cinematic way the camera follows the player, but I actually like it a lot. For a game this short, it isn't too concerning for me that the gameplay never really gets all that complex, and while I do think it would be really interesting to see the developers at Flying Wild Hog tackle a game like this with a little more meat on it, they did a pretty dang good job making this bite-sized samurai slice pretty engaging. At number 7 is Evil West. The West is like an old school action game, just a linear string of missions where you go from one point to another and kill a lot of dudes between. Normally a game that doesn't even bother with some kind of meaningless either open world or hub world or something like that makes me suspicious. I'm too used to being fed objectives by games rather than being fun. But Evil West actually is fun. It's not very original, it's kind of janky, the combat fundamentally is a solid idea, and there's not really any filler, open world, pointless side content, microtransactions. There's nowhere in the game game where it encourages the player to grind. It's just a straightforward campaign that you'll find out in about 10 hours, which is, I think, the ideal length for a game like this. Fun and not overly long. It's all too rare for a game like this to just be a little campaign. Most games with this scope are a little shorter, or they're covering some other kind of base with an open world multiplayer that's tacked on or something like that. Evil West doesn't really bother with any of that. It's just a solid game. It's not a great game, but considering that it's straightforward, it's got all the gore and violence you could want in a game like this, action's pretty fun, it's worth giving at least some recognition, especially in a list of games that respect your time. At number 6 is Road 96, a game you might not have heard of or played, but it's a little unique. It's a road trip adventure game with procedural elements. Basically, you're a character, a teenager, attempting to make it to the border of this oppressive fictional country and cross. On the way, you meet interesting characters, encounter tough decisions, and you see and experience the effects of this tyrannical regime, and, you know, all that stuff. Pretty standard narrative drive indie so far, but what makes the game so different is its procedural elements. You're not just playing a single character. You play as multiple teens attempting to cross the border, and each run tells a different story. The skill of the developers really comes into play because regardless of your path, everything that happens feels significant and dramatic. At least it had that effect on me. You'll learn more about the characters and the setting in every run. Background characters become central the more you learn about them. Each run lasts a few hours or so it's not that long of a game, perfect to pick up and play through a portion, and that's about all it really asks of you. Road 96 is very straightforward in its premise. You go on a road trip, and that's really it. The rest is up to the procedural generation to create, and it's actually a fascinating idea. And at number 5, it's Little Orpheus. It's a short little joke of a game. I meant literal comedy, not that it's a joke. It's from the creators of Everybody Is Gone to the Rapture and Dear Esther, which normally would mean that it's maybe a little cloying and very slow, but this one's instead more of a cinematic adventure game. It's still got an atmospheric, interesting looking world. The central idea is that you're a cosmonaut with the Soviets who went to the center of the Earth or something. But look, it's a lot more of a goofy game than it is stylized, as it may look like it's like Limbo or something like that. Not nearly as many jokes, there's a lot of jokes in this. The entire runtime, just over 5 hours, is the main guy telling his story through narration, essentially, and it does go to a lot of weird, wild, whimsical, funny places. Thankfully, the game is short because, man, if this thing was even 15 hours long, I personally think it would not work. But either way, I just love this game. It plays well both in its gameplay, story, and overall playtime. If you haven't heard of or played this game yet, you better check it out. At number 4, it's Recompile, a rare game with the length of an indie, but made by a relatively sizable team. Really, it's just another take on Metroidvania, but it's got a unique visual presentation that is quite striking. It reminds me of games like Darwinia, actually, but just way better looking. So instead of being a little dudes that run around a vague representation of a computer system, like in Darwinia, in Recompile, you're a little block-type guy that can jump and eventually gets a gun if you figure out where to go. The gun, though, reminds me of Metroid Prime, where the combat almost seems like an afterthought, like just a little something to break up the platforming, exploration, traversal that is constantly going on. It's a lot of jumping around, a lot of collecting upgrades to slowly progress further. Pretty standard fare in that regard. What makes the game worth mentioning here is how quickly it goes down, only 6 to 7 hours, which is exactly the right amount of time a game with about this much depth should be. There's not a lot of stuff hanging around trying to lengthen the runtime. It's a straightforward game designed to be completed, and that's what I like about it. I've no idea how much longevity it actually has because the pace is good the first time through, and that's like my entire experience. I haven't really spent a whole lot more time with it, but it is good. Maybe it's worth another look. At number 3 is Somerville from Jumpship. It's another game that's an animated movie, let's face it. It's a game inspired by Another World and the one-button games from Playdead like Limbo and Inside. So it makes a lot of sense that one of the big guys behind this game is actually one of the founders of Playdead. What makes this game stand out, though, is its runtime. It's only about 4 to 5 hours, and it's pure narrative gameplay. It's a little odd one. You play the father in a family trying to find, well, your family, after a mysterious alien invasion devastates the Earth. A big key to this game is that it's told all through animation and atmosphere as well, with no dialogue at all. It's purely a story about a guy trying to get back to his loved ones under unusual circumstances, and the entire plot is trying to figure out what exactly is going on with this alien invasion. It's more surreal than Inside, there's a little less graphically explicit sci-fi body horror stuff, and the game is a little rough and unpolished, which contributed to the mixed reviews at release. It was compared to games from Playdead, and it does not really stand up to them. But if you get past all that, it's just a short little adventure game. There's no collectible padding or anything. It's just a game with a simple story, simple puzzles, and a breezy runtime. At number 2 is the Entropy Centre, another sci-fi adventure game, although very different. It's actually like a Portal type game, though obviously without portals. They're using a time gun to push objects back in time. For a figurative one-man game, it's really impressive and refreshing because of the lack of fluff. It's just a straightforward linear level-based game where you have a little comedy talking gun friend, and you shoot some boxes, you send boxes back in time. I mean, that may sound like it would get repetitive, but the thing about the Entropy Centre is that it's not long enough for anything to get repetitive. You're always going somewhere new, like traversal puzzles, something else. You're rarely doing the same thing multiple times, and if you are, there's a twist on it. So what makes the fascinating little upside-down world game so perfect is that it's relatively short, but also it's about the repetition. Things repeat, but there's a twist on it. Not in terms of gameplay, but the concept. And even though this is a straightforward game with almost no fluff, it has a great ending. What I don't like about a lot of these smaller indie games is that they actually forget to end properly. They just abruptly stop in the middle of the story. The Entropy Centre isn't just straightforward. It actually completes the narrative, and that's rare with games of this length and depth. And finally, at number 1 is Severed Steel. It's another little indie action game that's all about going through these fast little missions that only take a minute, maybe 2 or 3, 4 or 5 in some of the later levels. It's basically a bunch of short little maps, but the premise is that you're a one-armed lady that works for a corrupt mega corporation that tries to kill you, but you survived the assassination and go on a little rampage, running, diving, wall running, flipping, kicking, and taking stuff down. The destructible environments definitely add to the madness, and I think it's a really cool part of what Severed Steel is doing. But the great thing about the game is there really isn't a whole lot of downtime. Unless you're just hanging around in the menu doing nothing, you're always playing, always doing cool stuff. And that's a good thing because the game is honestly just fast and fun. The story really isn't much of anything. It's not an ugly game, but it's definitely not going to win any awards. But it's just cool and it is time efficient. I mean, it's called Severed Steel for Christ's sake too. I mean, it's such a game name. I'm gonna go ahead and recommend this one, not just because it respects your time, but because it's great. But that's all for this list. What are other shorter single-player games you played recently that deserve mentioning? Leave us a comment and let us know. If you like this video, click like. If you're not subscribed, now's a great time to do so. We put out new videos from time to time, and the best way to see them, of course, is by subscription. But as always, thank you so much for watching, and see you in the next one.